So what's this defense going to look like? Well, I cut up some Boston Eagles tape because I like cutting up tape, but I was interested. You hear a lot of things about, okay, we're going to play a post safety. We're going to do sack the box. It's a 4-3, which is really a 4-2 in nickel, but is it really? It depends what kind of guys we have. So let's see if we can't figure out some little nuggets of information about watching some of the BC defense, okay? So the first thing you'll see here, single safety high. This is a cover 3 look. They're in a 43. You see, I've highlighted the safety down close to the line of scrimmage. This is a recurring theme, by the way, on this defense. And I don't know, a lot of this stuff's not going to travel. First of all, they're playing, I think this is a Florida State game. Florida State's better athletically than BC. The Green Bay Packers are better athletically than BC. So you don't want to go like player for player. Or you don't want, there's some of that you got to be careful about. Certainly, if they have bad tackle technique, that does tell a story. Not that they do. Well, maybe we'll see. Things like being able to switch man defense. Things on how they mask things. Like we'll get into that a little bit, but just generally speaking, one of the things that was interesting in this film, and I'll probably bring it up again, is how close, and it might just be the Florida State tape, but how they play that on the ball defender, because they play this guy in a position where if you're trying to dig him out from the outside, you can't. Certainly you could crack on him right now, and the safety and the corner's got to come down and close, so they could run like a down and around with you see it on the top of the screen. You got your X receiver, and then you got like an F or a Y hipped off. You could certainly run a crack play here. You'd have a hard time with the defensive end. But they're trying to put this guy in a position, it looks like to me, where there could be a natural rub to the flat if they were running man. But if it's a run defense first, it's very hard to dig that guy out certainly from the X, but also really from the Y. He's so close to the line of scrimmage, you don't get that cushion. So they're artificially creating that confrontation at the line of scrimmage, which I generally speaking, I really like. See, the safety comes up, the corner comes up, makes the play. We got all man here. There's no swap, so they go in motion down below, and this is one of the interesting things that you always wonder how they're going to play this. If they're playing like a zone match or they play man, do they want to switch any of this stuff off? Depending on who the players are. Yes, you can switch off in man. But it kind of, when you look at these toss plays, it puts you, whenever you do this and then you run like a toss crack, it puts you at a disadvantage because you're trying to get the receiver who's covering the motion guy. That guy doesn't want to get beat across the field. And we'll show that a little bit later. So you don't want to lag him. So if you keep up with him, you're now in a position to get cracked. The corner who's covering the outside receiver is going to step down, and it gives you some opportunity. So it's just how, that's how offenses are trying to combat defenses. See, the linebacker does a good job getting outside, forcing the ball back in. Going across in coverage. You see the play action. They're going to run the Y drag here, okay? So they go play action, heavy, run sell by the offensive line. Linebacker play side really bites. And then they put the guy in the flat to take away your star player. And because of that, the backside's open. So this is just a linebacker read. But this is kind of, it's like, how do you attack the single safety? Well, if you got good tight ends, which we do have some in this division, particularly in Minnesota, this is how they'll attack it. You play the man up here so they can, there's a ton of different ways to play these different screen looks up here when you run kind of a bunch or a tight trips look. Obviously everything's different because of the hash marks in college, but you're playing the man up on the point of the tip of the spear here. So in red, and then how are you going to play this with, I think they're running the outside wide receiver screen. So you're going to stock block. You're going to take the inside guy and try to block the outside defender, and then hope that the trail technique from the inside defender isn't able to catch up. So obviously they run a lot of this stuff because there's variations of this here. As you see, like you're pretty close to hitting a home run right here. If this is just a little bit cleaner. There's a lot of variations of this, obviously, because now you can not throw the ball, you can hitch it, and blah 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 blah. So how do they pass this off? These are the kind of questions as you get to a more advanced level of defense. How do you want to handle kind of all this stuff? Usually, like the tip of the spear guy, the cup guy can man, and then they'll switch on the back on the other two. There's a lot of different ways to do this. You see, the Packers have done this a couple different ways. What I like again is how close they are to the line of scrimmage. It kind of breeds aggressiveness. Nice play here. We got man up. So we're looking at leverage right now. So there's an outside, there's a corner outside of the bottom of the screen that you can't see, but you can see that our safety has a little bit of outside leverage on the Y player here. And then I've highlighted the defensive end. He does a good job against this run. So this is just a handoff out of pistol. They go outside zone. Guy does a great job of penetrating, but you also see the outside man fights to get wide, and you have everybody fill in their gaps. So we get the cutback that's forced by the defensive end. Good gang tackle. Great job. There's times in this game, and I think it's supposed to get zone. You see the zone, you see the way the linebackers attack, and they'll have some predetermined stack stuff, or the defensive line will have some stunts, and we'll show a couple dogs and blitzes here as well. But one thing that was interesting in this game is at times the linebackers are 5 yards off and they're not reacting to plays very fast. The play speed and the diagnosis of a play isn't as fast at the defensive end position. And again, that could be style of play, or that could be just the level of depth and experience that the guys that you're working with are. So we brought him back in for man. They were in empty. They're bringing a guy off the edge to be the read. So the Florida State runs a lot of zone read. When you bring this guy back in, we'll go back right here. So you bring the guy back in motion against a man defense. You'll notice that the guy that he's playing against is still outside leverage. Why? Well, because when you're in man and you bring that guy back into motion, you still don't want to get leveraged back out on the bubble. Like, that's his biggest fear. So what happens is when you play a lot of man, we're just talking ball now, and because I think the Packers are going to see a lot of this, and I like it. But these are the different ways that you attack it. You bring the guy back in motion. If that linebacker stays, or that man player stays with outside leverage there, well, one of the benefits for the offense is that they know that he's a step behind if they go to like an inside zone run or a middle zone run on the opposite side. So again, maybe you pick up 6-7 yards there because you can't fill the hole because you're a step slow. They do a little zone drop here. So they got 3 coming to the weak side of the passing strength. They got 1 coming off the right tackle, but the defensive tackle is going to drop. That puts high pressure on the up top corner, who's got to play the fade. He's got plenty of room, ends up making a nice play here. So that's always what's important. Well, having a real lockdown corner like Alexander, you're going to put him in positions where sometimes you're going to have to live with him getting beat, quite frankly, because he's not going to be perfect on this stuff. He's a really good player, but I think everybody would rather lose a game because you put the opportunity for greatness in Alexander's hands than playing conservative. Because I think he's that kind of player. Here we go again. Okay. This is kind of what I'm talking about. Where this is a head scratcher, and this is just be a singular play call or indicative of something else. You get down to the red zone, you go into a single high man look, and you rush 4. This is too easy. You're not going to be able to do this in National Football League. This is carve you up central. If you're only going to rush 4 and play man across the board, you're donezo. You have your safety down already to play a lurker or a robber. You got the single high, and you're going to have to play down there. It's like these days you're playing 22 man or you're bringing pressure, right? I mean, I'm oversimplifying the game, but just playing single safety, man, linebackers drop down there. I don't think you're going to see a lot of that from the BC Packers. I just left this in because I love the tackle, man. Right in the hole. Great shot. Okay, here we go. Man coverage. You see, we got empty. You got trips down to the right and kind of a bunch look. Now we're not playing at the tip of the spear here. We're not playing at the point of attack. So they're doing that so they don't get picked. They're all on different levels so they can run through it. Okay, so it's not the open field. You see up top, we got man defense. Now they're going to show pressure. They drop a D tackle, which, yeah, listen, dropping D tackles is tough, to be quite fair, but it ends up working out. The guy drops the ball. Maybe the quarterback makes a bad pass because he sees the guy. You don't know, but expect to see some of this. I'm never a big fan of dropping these guys, quite frankly. I think you do it, and if it spooks the quarterback, I think that's fantastic. Certainly from a blocking standpoint, you can make a mistake here. In other words, you can sit on the DT, he leaves, and the linebacker goes and he gets through. So there are those things there. I just don't, back in the day, if a guy walked up, you just grabbed him. You made the call, you grabbed that guy, didn't let him go, and didn't let him drop, right? Like I might just say, for example, I might just tell the quarterback, hey, I'm letting the D tackle go and I'm grabbing the linebacker, or vice versa. And then they just know, like, okay, that guy's going to be hot. If he's showing up, you'll know immediately. And if he drops, like, it didn't surprise you. So this is an interesting look. They're going to run a zone read here. And I put these guys over because the linebackers are shifted over because of the position of the running back. And you see they're going to read off this defensive end. But you see this little squiggle, like there's nobody on this backside hole to fill because they're lined up in man coverage across the board with a single safety again. So everybody's slanting that way. And the defensive end gets leverage. And it's not the first time that this has happened. And this is really a function of how they're lining their linebackers, how they're lining that outside defensive player, and what his responsibilities are. Because he's having to close down on the option play, and he sees all these guys moving away from him, and his eyes get off the running back. But there's a huge gap behind him that's not being filled by one of those linebackers. So the responsibility, like the weight is pretty heavy on that defensive end right here. I think I might have an end zone show with this. Let me see. Nope. Well, tough break. Okay, so now we got the quick toss here. Great job filling. So again, you're looking at a single safety look. You got a 4-2 in the middle. So this is a kind of defense you expect to see a lot of, by the way. And now you just start picking out like Xavier McKinney, maybe Javon Bullard's here, maybe Keyshawn Nixon's over, one of these guys. Maybe Evan Williams is in. Like you got some really interesting, I think, options now. And we'll see how Stokes turns out to be maybe the other corner. Maybe it's Valentine or Ballantyne. We don't know. This is just such an egregious no, though. Please don't do this. And you see this. I'll never forget. I was down in Miami coaching. We lost the game because they put Cam Wake, who's our best pass rusher and team leader. They put him on the wheel route, just like this play. They brought two guys inside. They're trying to get cute. And like your defensive end can't guard your running back in space, right? This is why this is why the Saints drafted Reggie Bush in 2005. Like this is insane. So they bring two guys and they go, oh yeah, we'll just have them cover the wheel. Now, this is some cutesy college stuff. They were doing this, the pros. I think most guys have stopped doing this, I hope. But please, I'm just, personal message, coach, please don't do this. This is a losing play. You see the pace at which, I just want to highlight the pace of which we're not making decisions at the defensive end spot. Okay? So there's two things going on here that you can continue to improve on. One, odd shift with your safety, your linebacker, your defensive end, and your backside. It's an odd way to shift the defense given where he is. They're playing this outside because of the slot. Now, you'll watch the linebacker show up late, but you see how slow we read this play. The defensive end in the NFL, you got to go force this play hey, I'm taking this guy, I'm forcing the action so everybody knows what's going on. I'm taking the play away, right? Now we used to just do this by running what we'd call an end will stunt. So you'd spike the end, take the will over the top. This is what took the play away. There's some different ways to take care of that. Obviously, I won't get into that, but you see how wide this leverage player is. He's not able to close down. The quarterback's got way too much space, and this is just all you can eat. So this is where your scheme is getting beat. And there's a lot of plays with Florida State because they run their quarterback where you see the scheme getting stretched in a way that you're not very comfortable with if you're a Packers fan. Having said that, I think a lot of this uh, at the higher level coaching, higher level playing, higher level athlete, I think takes care of itself. This is kind of another look where you're stacking that guy closer to the line of scrimmage. So you're forcing the action. He's going to come in, but your middle linebacker doesn't do a great job of getting to his spot. He's reading, he sees that bubble being pushed back at him from the defensive tackle. He needs to get over immediately because you have that outside guy coming in and closing. You have your defensive end with your outside leverage. So the running back has one place to go, and you kind of got there a little bit late. And because of that, he's able to make that cut and get in. So when you look at a play like that, you go, Mike, is that coaching? Is that scheme? Yes. Right? Is that just the guy not making the right read? That's probably what it is. But what you want to see in these situations, you go 5 in the box with a guy on the overhang on the outside, and he's going to enter. We're going to count him, okay? But if you put the middle linebacker in the middle and you say to the center and the left guard, hey, you're going to double team this guy and he's not going to pop over the top, I'm just telling you right now, like that's a disaster. Okay. Because that means I get, as the guard, I get more time to tee off on this defensive or that nose tackle, which allows us to get more vertical push, which makes the job more difficult for the linebacker, which makes the job easier for a running back. So just from a scheme standpoint, you got to put the guys in a situation from a defensive tackle. Man, I don't want a double team because the dude's right behind me. Make him move, make the guard come off so I can get single blocked by the center and give myself a chance. We talked about this ad nauseum last year with our guys playing back. If your guys are playing back, you're in a bad position because a defensive tackle kid is now taking, 4 legs, pushing him back into the lap of Quay or whoever's playing linebacker, Devondre, because they're not hitting those gaps. Same situation here. Got to be more aggressive to the line of scrimmage. I'll show this play at the end. This is what we're talking about. And this is kind of an athlete thing and everything, but this is what every coach is coaching right now. You see how far behind 6 their man coverage is. Okay. And then what this does is because of where they snap this ball, you got all the action going to the right. And you got this defensive end in a really bad spot where he's got to read it out and come back. He's not really involved in the play. He wouldn't be anyways. But now because you're chasing and the way this ball's thrown, he can plant, you're out leveraged, bad tackling, touchdown. This is what we talk about when we say be aligned. What do I mean? I mean that we've got a guy hitting the hole at the linebacker position, but we don't have the proper reaction up top. Okay, there's 2 things happening here. One, if you're playing the outside leverage, you can't get beat to the outside because you peek inside. And 2, that linebacker can't sit at 5 yards and dance. You got to go. Got to go. Now, same thing here. You got to go now, right? You got 4 guys playing across here. At this point in the game, you're down a little bit. 4 guys playing across. If it's time to go, if you see it, we got to coach it. You got to hit the hole. Go, go, go. You're taking on my highlighted player with the arrow is taking on a block, right? And part of that's because of the coverage that they're in. But once you see this, man, you got to be aggressive to the ball. Moving around. I probably could have got rid of this play. So we see the man coverage here. I thought this was interesting. So they brought the safety down and they actually leave these linebackers to drop. We got man on 9. He gets beat. That's a touchdown right there, by the way. If you're counting at home, right? Got beat for a touchdown. So out of the backfield, do your linebackers, are they good enough, right, to play with zero safety in the middle? And now you got your safety coming all the way across the field to play in the flat. This guy's beat. That's a problem. They had a touchdown. Good job because they brought pressure. Were able to get rid of the ball. So this is, it's a first down, but it's not the big play. We come downhill at the safety position. Ends up making the tackle. Obviously, you'd like them to be as close as possible to the line of scrimmage. When you get there, close that gap. Plays being made. And then you got to always understand your run rules and man. I thought they did a really nice job here of just understanding your run rules, right? Where your leverage points are, what position you are on the field as far as do I need to turn the guy back. I thought the outside guy did an excellent job here, and you got great flow from the linebackers to make a play. Again, they're down like 31-12 or something like that. This is like end of the game. They're trying to run the clock out. Everyone knows it's going to be a run. What are you going to do to stop them? You're crowding the line of scrimmage here. You see this guy, you got this guy hipped off again, so he can't get dug out. Now, same look, okay, as we just saw. Now we're going to bring pressure off the line, so he's got to get rid of the ball quick. We play it off. Great call. Love it. Now we got the same issue, though. Peeking in the backfield. I think I'll show the end zone copy of this. So they brought man motion in. He's worried about the outside leverage, but he's still got to respect this guy. So now this 6 basically gets to take 2 when you play man. This is kind of the interesting thing with the run game if you can use your quarterback. When you play man coverage and you have like an Alan Lazard who can dig out this defensive end, at least for the time being, he's kind of taking 2 guys, right? Because the man player who came in off of motion, it's not like he can just stop looking at this guy to run a pop pass. So he's got to see a lot of stuff right now. And he just gets leveraged, beat. And I think those are just, like, honestly, those are just tough plays. And you have to have answers to them. And I'm sure as you start thinking about NFL offenses, teams that can do that kind of stuff with their mobile quarterbacks. I mean, the Bears are going to be running that, I guarantee, nowadays, right? That's one facet. I mean, that was like Florida State's main thing. It seemed like that's one facet of what the NFL team do. So getting all that in, understanding what the looks are, understanding the reads, understanding you have a process to take care of that no matter what. That's going to be super, super important to these guys to have success. I think the defensive line, when you watch that tape, the takeaway for me is like the defensive line, this could be true with any team, but the defensive line has to really perform in order to make things go there. You got to get penetration. You got to be able to eat up those double teams. I do think some of the drop zones, some of the switch stuff is going to translate differently at the next level. You have better athletes, all of that stuff. My biggest question mark, not like negative question mark, just like can't wait to see, is how they're going to, first of all, when I showed that guy hipped off that was kind of closer to the scrimmage so they couldn't get, who's that going to be? How are they going to use him? And then if it's Nixon, Bullard, Williams, McKinney, like how are 3 or 4 of those, there's going to be 3 of those guys on the field a lot at the same time. How are they going to disguise coverages so it's not always like, oh, we're single safety high again? It's either, is it 1 or 3, oversimplifying the game. But is it man or zone, single safety high? Where's the, what's possible? Williams, of those 3 guys, is the best on the move as far as blitzing. Based off tape, he's the best one. He's still in college, kid, but he's the best one of those 3. Okay, so if he's in the game. So where do all these guys get utilized? Does this bring in the Oregon State kid because he's a little bigger, more physical? Are we going to have him on the field? Does he have a better opportunity? Like that. So anyways, that position, have those 5 guys are going to take those 3 places. Probably the most interesting thing for me.